Story 1. This reminds me of the programs where kindergartens take the children into aged care facilities, and the children pick a buddy and then write letters, draw pictures, and visit their buddy. Story 2. My town actually has an Adopt a Grandparent program at some of the nursing homes. They created profiles with their interests and what they like to talk about so you could choose a grandparent you would get along with well. Story 3. A similar concept is having orphanages for children with elderly living with them, those who don't have a family or have been put up in some kind of assisted living. The kids grow up with grandparents who tell them stories and teach them how to be better people. And the elderly receive genuine love and affection. There are some centers like this in India, and overall the benefits are considerable. The elderly are healthier and happier. The young ones are better behaved and perform well in school. Story 4. It's not the same, but I had adopted grandparents growing up. Basically, when my mom's father died young, her best friend's father stepped in and volunteered to be her surrogate dad. He was my grandpa, his wife was my granny, his daughter, my mom's best friend, is my aunt, and her kids are my cousins. As far as I'm concerned, they're all family. Story 5. There is actually a program that kind of meets this need where I live. People can sign up for a rented grandparent. It allows families that have no living grandparents or limited contact with their grandparents to have grandparents in their life. It helps elderly people who want social contact, and it helps families who want their children to experience grandparents. How you interact with the rented grandparents is up to you and your rented grandparent. So if you want to do a lot together, they match you with someone who wants to be very active. If you want someone more laid back, they match you with a laid back person. They are called rental or borrowed grandparents. You don't actually pay to spend time with them. I should have probably clarified that. People are starting to combine nursing homes and preschools because the children benefit from the elderly and the elderly benefit from the children. Here's an unrelated article about children supporting shelter animals by reading to them and, in return, the shelter animals building up the children's confidence in their reading skill. Story 6. I think it's lovely. The majority of my parents' friends are child-free, and I've done something similar. I visit a lot of them and send them packages. It's always nice to have more great people in your life. Story 7. My Japanese grandfather was adopted by a childless elderly couple at the age of 27. This was a way to continue their family line and pass down the family business. I visited his mother, but not his birth mother, as a child. He took care of his parents in their old age, and the business is now 120 years old. Apparently, this was a fairly common practice. My mom did not understand why I thought this was unusual at all. I should also mention that he changed his name and lived as their son until he died. Story 8. I did this as a young girl at 8 years old. My last grandmother died, and I was upset that I didn't have one. One day, while visiting a family friend, my mom and dad suggested I ask her if she could be my grandmother. She said yes, even though she had her own grandchildren. We did lots together when I was a child. Cooking, art, gardening, etc. I think she even taught me a little piano. Then I became a foolish teenager and went through an emo stage and didn't see her as often. She sadly passed away when I was 16. At her funeral, I found out she often talked about me to her own children and actually viewed me as a grandchild. She was amazing, and I am very grateful for her. She was always super nice and kind. I miss her dearly. Teenagers, please make time for your grandparents. Story 9. Nothing wrong with helping or contributing to their well-being, but I doubt anyone would take on the legal responsibilities such as medical costs and housing costs. Story 10. All my grandparents are dead, so I'll adopt 2 sets of grandmas and grandpas. They don't have to be married. You can just argue a whole lot, offer me whiskey, bake me pies, and perhaps give me $5 on my birthday. Please send me your applications for review. And don't get mad at me for putting foil pinwheels in your microwave because I like watching the pretty sparks. Story 11. We had elderly neighbors whose son didn't really care for them, so my mother did. We called them Grandma and Grandpa, and I hope we made their last years a bit better. Story 12. I know a lot of people who have already done this, us included. It's usually elderly neighbors, though. For us, when we moved to our new home, we moved 300 miles away from both of our parents, so our children really felt the loss of their grandparents. At the time, they were only 2 and 9 and talked to anyone. It only took a few days for us to start chatting over the fence, and only a few weeks before our children had a new grandmother. She would have Sunday lunch with us, and we would pop into each other's houses for a cup of tea. She was like a mother to me and my husband. She had children of her own, but they lived abroad, so she only saw them a couple of times a year. When she had to move into a care home, we would visit her, and it was as upsetting when she died as if she had been my mother. She taught the children a lot, and I've never regretted it. Story 13. It would be difficult for the people with Alzheimer's. Then again, they might not remember they were not adopted. Before anyone gets mad, my grandfather went out that way, and it was not pretty. For those dealing with this, you have my sympathies. Story 14. I have friends whose kids don't really talk to them. I'm not sure why, because they're really lovely, amazing people. One year, I found out the guy's kids wouldn't even take his call on Father's Day. So I told him he's now a part of our family, and they're both now extra grandparents. Since my kids' own grandparents were distant, it worked out really well. I love our extra family members. My friends aren't as difficult as some might think. One may not have been the greatest mom. She had her son at 16 and tried hard, but she was still a kid herself. They still talk. Her husband was in a pretty acrimonious divorce as his ex turned the kids against him. Story 15. I have an adopted grandma. Her words. She plays bingo at the club where I used to work and decided I was family. She started calling herself my adopted grandmother, and I love her to pieces. Story 16. In some cases, it is this. I knew a couple who had a child who was born very unhealthy. The boy didn't live past 5 years. Any time after that, they had stillbirths. They adopted a little boy with autism who was about 11, and it's like he adopted them as his parents just as much as they adopted him as their child. His grandparents still spoil him, and he loves his grandparents back. Story 17. I actually adopted a dad, and it was the best thing for both of us. He is actually coming to bring me to the doctors today and to hang out. It is great for those who are in need of a supportive family. Love makes a family, not blood. Story 18. My next-door neighbor is 90. Very active for 90. I would have never guessed she was 90. She lives alone. We actually bought our house from her niece and nephew, as they were moving closer to their grandchildren. She never had children. My children, 5 and 2, call her Granny, and she loves it. She tells us all the time how much we have blessed her by being her neighbor, and she gets so much joy playing with our children. My girls love her so much. I think it's a great idea. Story 19. A while ago, there was a news story in my country about foster teenagers living with elderly people. They helped with chores, and the elderly had someone to spend time with. Everyone seemed really happy, both the elderly and the teenagers. The teenagers enjoyed feeling needed and having responsibility without high expectations. The elderly were kind and loving. That honestly seems like a great idea. Story 20. I adopted my next-door neighbor. Her entire family lived far away, and we loved her, helped her, and made it so she could stay in her home until she died at 92. I miss her a lot. She was calm and fun. Story 21. I never thought about that before. It would be wonderful for someone who has never had a family or is neglected or dishonored due to their gender choice or sexuality to finally have someone to love them and take care of each other. However, the elderly might face several challenges similar to the difficulties that orphans face. Story 22. I would rather not invite a lifetime's worth of emotional baggage into my home, unless this person was exceedingly pleasant. Mostly, I think it would just feel weird for everyone involved. Story 23. My family moved house when I was 8. There was a kind older lady at the new church who had arthritis and a sweet old King Charles Spaniel that she struggled to take out. She needed help walking him, so I would go around and help with shopping and dog walks. I always said she was my adopted grandma. She taught me how to 10-pin bowl. She would take me and the dog out to the countryside for long walks. As a city kid, it was amazing. She never had children of her own, so I think in a way I was like her child or grandchild. She passed away this morning, and I hadn't seen her in a few years. Tell your loved ones you love them. Life is short, but I have amazing memories. Story 24. Where I live, there is a service called Rentma. Essentially, parents who can't stay home with their sick children or have other commitments and don't have anyone to watch them can rent a grandma. It involves elderly women who don't have much to do anymore and enjoy playing with children. Also, a family always gets the same one or two grandmas so the kids can get used to them. Story 25. Sweet idea. Now combine. Pair orphans with orphaned parents who do not know each other and force them by law to be family. Who cares if they like each other? No, make that a law too. They must love each other or face extermination. Story 26. Loneliness kills. I am a nurse in a nursing home made up mostly of veterans. A few residents have only a friend or old neighbor to check up on them. Some of them have been friends for years and continue to visit after they are put in a nursing home. It's nice to see these relationships because there are so many others who have no one. Unfortunately, COVID-19 has made it difficult for them, and being unable to have visitors takes a toll. Story 27. Became friends with an elderly neighbor with no close family. He confessed feelings for me, despite a 50-year age gap, and still sends me letters in the mail, even though I cut off all contact with him. I'm not doing that again. Story 28. Some friends of mine have sort of done this. They lived next door to a wonderful lady who is getting on in years. She has no kids or close family, so they became really close, and when they decided to move to one of their home countries, they actually took her with them. They weren't lacking parental figures in their own lives. They just had an amazing bond. She's kind of like a zany great aunt to them, and they're super happy being together like that. So nice to see. Story 29. My grandparents do the opposite. My parents are much younger than most of my friends' parents, so many of my friends don't have any living grandparents. My grandparents live a mile away from me. They are granny and grandpa to every single one of my friends, and I absolutely adore them for it. Story 30. As a kid, I had several adopted grandparents. Our church was small and mostly consisted of elderly people. My great-grandmother always had 2 pots of coffee on and had many elderly visitors. There were many people who simply didn't have any young grandchildren anymore or didn't have family close by, so we got pretty close with them. Now I am grown with 2 kids. My kids have adopted our neighbor as a grandma and sit and visit in the front lawn, help carry her groceries to the house, and help tend the garden. My kids have a lot of grandparents who we see often, but she doesn't have kids close by. I love that my kids saw someone struggling with groceries and ran to help, starting a great new relationship in the process. Story 31. Help them instead. Volunteering is a good start. Adopting them is not. Having your child die is something way worse than having a parent or a loved one die. The biggest nightmare for a parent is to die after their children. There's absolutely nothing that could even compare to that. Someone could never even try to replace someone as important as a child. So, instead of being a replacement son or daughter, try being a help to them instead. Story 32. I have no grandparents left, and I have done this with the local old friars at a nearby convent. I absolutely adore them, and the feeling is great. Some have family, but most do not, and I do not see why they should not. It's funny because I'm not Catholic, but I just smile and nod because those are just details. Story 33. I think it is a great thing to adopt these people into your and my lives. Most of them don't have any living relatives left, so I think they would really appreciate it. Story 34. I am aware of an organization that adopts children whose parents have been lost in natural calamities and who are homeless. The organization is founded and based in India, and it is called The Art of Living. It is run by a spiritual leader, Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. They are doing an amazing job by providing these children with shelter, food, clothes, and mainly education. People from all around the world can donate too. Story 35. My coworker's family has done this, and the man's family isn't dead. They're just terrible. He's an elderly man who would work out at the same gym as her husband. The older man disappeared from the gym for a while, and when he came back, he told his gym buddies about how he'd been sick. Apparently, more of the story included how his kids are not great people. One is on drugs and the other is neglectful, and his time while ill was made worse because they aren't helpful. My coworker's husband took an interest in that and started listening closer to stories about this guy's situation after that. It's very fortunate that he did because this guy wound up going downhill health-wise. Fast. In the 6 years since, she's been giving us updates on Uncle Phil. Name changed? But her young kids refer to this man as their uncle now. Uncle Phil has seen some rough spirals. At one point, his kidneys were not doing well at all, and at this point, he is in a care facility thanks to my coworker's family and not his own. Instances of this man's biological children stepping in that time have repeatedly involved them trying to steal things from his house and take money away from him. Her husband now has power of attorney for Uncle Phil, I don't know to what extent. And their family has consistently made sure he is receiving proper care. Who knows how long that guy has left? But at least he can be sure he's got two people with two cute kids who call him family and treat him with respect.